So I suggest we get started, and I want to officially welcome Jon Block to be one of my guests, to be my guest today. This is SpeakerTunity Sessions, compelling conversations for change makers with leaders and experts, brought to you by SpeakerTunity, the tip sheets that give you direct contacts for stages, radio shows, podcasts, and virtual summits so that you can get yourself booked. And I'm your host, Jackie Lappin. And today I am thrilled to have with me Jon Block, who, through his speaker training and networking organization, SpeakerVenture, since 2001, has personally mentored over 1,500 entrepreneurs to use speaking to dramatically increase their revenue and social impact. These entrepreneurs discover their original voice and their highest contribution while earning hundreds of thousands of dollars. Jon has spoken on more than 500 stages, sharing the stage with the biggest leaders in the entrepreneur and human potential movement. He was named #1 on the top 20 conscious entrepreneurs of 2013. And one of my colleagues, Jesse Corin of the Thrive Academy, says Jon cares so much about making a difference for people, he is willing to risk everything. An incredible man. Jon is most proud of SpeakerVenture, whose participants have called his program life-changing and the best event they've ever attended. And so today we're going to learn from Jon how to make hot offers from the stage. So it's a pleasure to have you here today, Jon. And I'm going to start out by asking you a question. What makes a hot offer?
Well, a hot offer has a few key qualities to it, and I'm just going to boil it down to two right now. One is that it has to feel great for you, the speaker, making it, and for the audience. And the reason I'm leading with that one is because it's less commonly stated. And so much of what really makes life work, if you think about it, is how do you feel in the moment. So making an offer is no different. It's about how you feel as you're making it and how the audience feels as they're making it. Now, the reason I hit upon this point is that so oftentimes an offer is a very fracturing experience where it's sort of like you're taking a hammer or some kind of device and then like creating divides in the room with it. I would say that's not the hottest offer it could be. So one that has to feel great to the audience, whether they sign up or not. The second quality, which you can probably guess, is one that converts at a high rate for you. Those are the two demarcations, I would say, for what makes a hot offer. Now, traditionally, people will just obsess exclusively with whatever it takes to make the sale from the front of the room. And that, to me, would be a description of unconscious business when it comes to selling from stage, frankly. We're talking about a new paradigm, and to me, how the audience experiences you is of the greatest importance, and if they experience you in a great way, then the result is that you'll convert higher than ever.
Well, and you know, so many people come to the stage with an offer that they are uncomfortable making because there's subconscious thoughts going on that they're pushing themselves on people, or that they're somehow forcing something down somebody's throats. And, you know, and especially people in the conscious business world and spirituality and all that, oftentimes just feel so uncomfortable in the selling mode at all. And so making sure that you have an offer that really resonates with everybody, yourself and the audience, certainly gets people past some of that resistance, I would imagine.
Yeah, I use the doctor-patient analogy a lot. And one of the reasons is because at SpeakerVenture, we do attract a lot of, whether they're actual healers or people who have this giving, nurturing aspect of their personalities. They get into it because they truly want to help people is the bottom line and make a big difference. So the doctor-patient analogy resonates a lot, where if you think of a doctor's on stage and has a cure to this ailment, and just for big effect, we'll say cancer, that if people come to the room because they either are experiencing cancer or they're worried about experiencing cancer, and this doctor on stage actually has the bona fide cure to cancer, it would lack integrity if he or she did not offer that cure by the end of their presentation. if they were talking about what this thing can do for them and about their own journey of how they discovered this cure, then if they didn't offer at the end, the whole audience would feel gypped. There would be an outrage. How could you bring us here and not offer us the cure?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Right, and it's the same thing with each of you, and I'm looking at some of the names here, Mark, Mary, Sherry. Each of you has the cure for cancer to your people, your own equivalent to that. So it completely lacks integrity to not offer it. It goes against your core commitment to make a difference. The biggest shift to really have here, just like that doctor has to get that, it's not about him coming off pushy or aggressive or like he's not really authentic or something. All of that is secondary to, I'm committed to you being cured of cancer. So when I think of the good doctor, I think of someone like Jonas Salk, right? He was committed to curing polio. There was such an alignment with that. He seems like he was the last great doctor that I can think of. So we are the good doctors ourselves, where it has to be about, I'm here for you to make a difference in your life. That's what I'm obsessed about. That is why I'm on this planet, is to cure this for you. And I'll do whatever it takes, including getting over my own fears and self-doubts and fear of public speaking, whatever that is secondary to you getting cured. That has to be the thing that pulls us forth always.
Being in the position of, I am serving, not selling. And in the process of serving, you deserve fair compensation for the gift that you're giving the audience.
Yeah. I mean, the world I want to live in is the ones who truly are dedicated to serving are the most prosperous on the planet. Like if there has to be a 1%, let's say, then I want that 1% to be not the crooks who are just committed to making a buck no matter who suffers, but rather it's the people who are truly the light workers, the ones who are coming from this highest place of service. And I believe that's a universal sentiment, whether someone actually consciously vocalizes it or not, but there's something that feels very in alignment and just very right about when someone is truly about service. Yes, you want to give them your money, because why wouldn't you want to engage with someone like that and be around more of this energy, especially if you've gotten so much from the speaking engagement thus far. Let's presume that it's a free speaking engagement, which it is much of the time. You haven't paid a whole lot of money to see this speaker to begin with. Then if you've gotten a lot of value, then it only stands to reason that, yes, you'll get served at an even higher level if you were to make a financial investment. It's just a very natural flow to have with a relationship.
Absolutely. So what are some of the common mistakes that speakers make?
So specifically when making offers, and that's today's topic, I would say the most common mistake by far with making offers from stage is not making an offer from stage. And I believe this is a self-sabotage technique, completely subconscious, where it's understandable because it does fuse together two of the biggest fears people have, public speaking and sales. So they will subconsciously self-sabotage, and that could look like, oh, I ran too long on the content, or there were too many questions from the audience and I lost track of time, so I had to rush my offer. If they actually don't make an offer, then they will rush through their offer and not give it its proper course that it deserves. So that's the most common mistake, is either to not do it or to rush through it altogether. So what I recommend is that you always, if we're doing, say, a 1-hour presentation, the last 10 minutes should be dedicated to your offer. Not so much just to deliver the offer, but to answer questions and so forth, right? There has to be a good 10-minute block of time that's dedicated exclusively to this. So that's the first mistake. The second mistake would be trying to mimic others. Now, modeling is a very gray topic as far as I'm concerned. There are people who tend to be very black or white about it, who say like, oh, you must model people, model success. I remember hearing Tony Robbins tell me that endlessly. You have to model others, follow a template, success leaves clues. And then there's others who say, forget the templates, you just gotta be yourself and own your own unique path. Certainly as you get into these spiritual communities, that's a real common thing that you'll hear. But in reality, it's both. Like most things, it's not black or white, it's actually gray. and there's an integration of both. But the most common mistakes will probably be being black or white with it, where the case of modeling, someone might say, and this is a mistake that I made, where I saw these speakers who were almost always men that would say to the audience things like, if you are signing up for the program right now, then you're a doabie. The rest of you still seated in your chair staring at me right now are wannabes. And if you do not sign up, then you're going to stay a wannabe for life. This program is going to be what takes you to being a doabie. And it was such, in my mind, a jerk thing to say. And at the same time, I saw guys like that be successful with sales, with selling from stage. So I thought, well, that's just what I have to do. So I tried that, and it just felt so gross to me. And I like to think that even if I did have some success with it, which I did not at all when I tried that way, but I still would have found my own way after that. So that's the first thing, is that there's so many speaker trainings out there, like the biggest ones that you probably heard of, tend to be cookie cutter. And that's one reason why I keep my shop pretty intimate, is because there is an authentic voice that's meant to be brought out, and we can't just cookie cutter people all the way through. But the ones that have the biggest marketing budgets and more about getting people into the seats and then selling you programs tend to be the bigger name ones. And what I've seen, frankly, is that there's this cookie cutter, this is what worked for me, and therefore you should do it like me, and keep on trying to do it like me until you get it down. And I've just seen so many people bomb from stage because they're trying to be someone else. And the reason this doesn't work, I believe, probably the biggest reason, is that as a speaker, our highest commitment is to really give people permission to be themselves. That's my view. And to really empower them with the knowledge that you're perfect the way you are, you're beautiful, and honor your own unique light. And if the speaker on stage is not even doing that themselves, then how on earth can they be really congruent with telling the audience to do that? On the other spectrum, real quick, would be just being purely in your heart and authentic and trusting that, oh, people will work with me if they want to. That was another mistake I made after I got that horrible feedback of like calling people wannabes who were still seated and not signing up. I went the opposite extreme, where I would make the offer and I would say, hey, there's business cards right there on the side. Pick one up if you're interested, but no pressure. The last thing I want to do is make you feel uncomfortable. And people, perhaps out of politeness or some degree of interest, would take business cards, but I never created any clients from that. On the plus side, I wasn't actually aggressive and pissing people off, so that was some progress in that sense, but it was no progress in that I was still not generating clients either way. And it wasn't until I really integrated the two and found my own authentic expression of those, that's where things really clicked for me.
And I know that you have really helped a lot of your clients find their own voice and the way to sell in a really smooth and comfortable way. So you really live your mission. So you've I've heard talk about the old model of making offers from stage. What do you mean by that? And what's the new model?
So the old model would probably be most represented in the example I gave around shaming the audience and bullying them into it. And one of the things I love about how the speaking industry has shifted across the last 10 years is the predominance of women speakers and women entrepreneurs. And in my view, the whole conscious business movement is really attributable to the rise of women entrepreneurship. If you kind of note those two movements, they parallel directly, the rise of women entrepreneurship and the rise of conscious business as a phrase and as a movement. This old paradigm predates all that, and it's really in the 70s and 80s and 90s, where it was really about moving as much product from stage. It's a level of theater, is what I would say. That might be a way to look at it. It's a theatrical experience where no one really believes fully in what they're doing from stage, and yet they're promising real results with people. And the result is that this horrifying statistic in the seminar industry, which is something like only 3% of people actually get results who buy from programs. And what's tragic is that some people might go broke in the process of buying these poorly designed programs because they were promised these certain results. Or they'll be really gun shy. Like I've met people who've been frankly traumatized in some way by programs that didn't work, and they're projecting all that onto me, and it creates this hole that we have to dig out of when it comes to working together. Those are some of the effects of this old paradigm. Most of all, these people's lives don't get transformed. The world doesn't become a better place as a result of these lives getting transformed. One way to look at it is that in this older paradigm, it's all about the speaker, meaning their ego, how much money are they closing. And you can tell if someone's kind of in this old paradigm with, if you ask them how their event went, the first thing they'll say is how much they closed from the front of the room.
Wow.
That is a telltale sign right there. And as I say that, it's deliberately meant to push some buttons because it is so common. Even those that we think are in this newer paradigm, which I'll define more clearly in just a moment, are entrenched somewhat in the old paradigm. And I'm not above it myself. It's really, really sticky and tempting. It's especially, well, as you're starting out and as the higher you climb, because there are definitely certain qualities just that make it that much easier and susceptible to allow the greed or the ego to take over. It takes real conscious discipline to not get into that as you grow your business. Now, this newer paradigm can be measured when you ask someone how their event go. They immediately talk about the attendee experience. They'll say how many lives were transformed, how people were crying when this moment happened, how you were able to articulate your message clearer than ever, such that people were able to absorb it and go off and have phenomenal lives. If you're bragging about the quality of people that you get to work with, right, from a place of genuine excitement, not ego, but just like you're lit up by these people, that to me are some indicators of a new paradigm speaker or a new paradigm business leader. Other qualities to look for is really how they make the offer from stage, which ties in today's topic. This is something where it's an evolving thing, and this is where it's exciting, where there isn't an established way yet of how to make a new paradigm offer. And what I'll be sharing with you today, hopefully, will be some pointers of how you could do that, but ultimately you're gonna have to find it yourself. So consequently, a lot of it hasn't fully landed yet. You won't be able to tell right away, oh, that's a new paradigm leader, unless you're someone who really knows how to listen to your own gut, which hopefully, if you're on this call, you have some ability to do that. And you can tell whether you feel this person is full of it, and hence an old paradigm speaker, or is someone that really is coming from this beautiful, genuine, and true place. What you can say to whatever they say to you, you can really take it to the bank. So when it comes to making the offer from stage, one thing I like to do is just to be fully transparent with audiences and how I might say, so I know this might seem like a gimmick right now that I'm slashing the prices, but the reason I do it is because of a price juxtaposition quality. I know for me, when I'm watching an offer from stage, it does something for me when I see that price juxtaposition go down, and it creates additional excitement for me, right? And excitement is what needs to happen with making an offer. So I'll do something like that, for instance, as a way of just like saying, hey, I have no tricks whatsoever. This is the reason I'm doing it. If you're really angry and feeling triggered by this, then you can clear it with me afterwards, but this is not the time to bring it up right now, this moment. And just do my best to honor people in the room versus saying like, all right, I'm just gonna go through the offer and kind of, drill my way through it. So any specific questions about that, Jackie?
Well, I was going to say, it seems to me that the distinction is one of presenting from a place of authenticity and love, love being for the audience, love being for your program, love being for the honoring yourself. And the other is the old paradigm is from a place of fear of not having enough sales and pushing to make sure that you get your part of it. It's a very different mindset, and you can tell when you're in the room the kind of speaker that's really speaking to you from their heart and from their place of authenticity.
Yeah, absolutely. The most powerful work I've done in my life has probably been my relationship to money. And I highly, highly, highly encourage every single person on the planet, unless you're a monk, I suppose, and you don't really have a relationship with money. But those of us who live in our kind of societies, to do some real work around our relationship to money. And when you think about it, this is going to be a longer relationship than with our parents, with our children, with our spouses, than any other relationship in our life. Money is going to be something that we deal with, right? From the moment we're born until we die. And there's going to be so many challenges that we have with it. So it's essential that we have what is an empowering relationship to it. And one point that you hit really well, Jackie, was that scarcity and fear of I'm not going to get the sales. And part of the money work that any of us can do will be around recognizing how that story or conversation we have about fear and scarcity, how much of it's not rooted in reality. How much of that is just our parents' story that's been wired into us, or some failure you had a couple of years ago, or at your last event, and how that's being wired into your present moment experience. And that is injecting poison. It's like you're pumping cyanide into the room, and that's affecting your sales when you do that. That's what you're doing to your connection with the folks in the room when you come from that place, and hence contaminating your sales. So to really have this trust around the sales process and know that you got this, that your job is to be as conscious and as authentic as possible, as clear in your delivery and sharing what this is and what they can gain from it. And then, yeah, giving some clear reasons why it makes sense to act now, right? Just because that's how you create excitement and movement, then just trust from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you for articulating that, Jon. That's a really important point. So we're at the point that everybody's wondering, so what does go into a hot offer? What are some of those elements? And if you can enlighten us.
Absolutely. So I have the ability to share the screen?
Yes, you do. If you go to the bottom, you should see a green thing right there.
I just want to make sure I have the hosting capabilities, but I guess that's the panel status that you gifted me. All right, so you're able to see the...
We are.
Okay. Now, one thing I am working on is having more colorful graphics. But until that day, bear with me because this is going to be more text heavy than I would recommend someone do. Hopefully I can make up for it with playful tone and inflection. Anyway, offer, here's some key tenets. It must be the natural and obvious solution to the problem as you've clearly presented it. So I stated this in various ways before, but I want to hit this on the head. That people are drawn in, so to use that cancer example, for instance, they're drawn in because they are either going through cancer or they're worried about cancer, or they know someone who's going through cancer. That's why they're there. Then part of your job on stage is to be presenting what's the cost of this going unaddressed, right? This is part of the content that you're delivering and what's possible if they do have it cured. So we're very much creating a gap between the pain island. Pain island is what happens if they never work with you, and pleasure island is what happens if they do work with you. Then your offer is a natural and obvious solution. It's like, oh, okay, well, this cure for cancer is obviously the solution because you've been talking this whole time about what's my life going to be like if I stay having the cancer or if I have the cancer taken care of, right? And what life is available for me. Then obviously some kind of treatment would be the offer to be made around that. You can apply this to obviously any niche with dating, with money, and so forth. whatever niche that you're in, where someone doesn't have what you have to offer, what life will be like, then what is possible if they do have it. And your offer really is the natural invitation. Say, hey, hop on my boat. I'll take you from Pain Island to Pleasure Island. Next. Oops. You see it as an extraordinary contribution to your audience, and so do they. So this is a note about your own personal alignment, that you have to be so lit up and excited. This is an extraordinary contribution to your audience. So wherever you are, I invite you to consider, where have you felt like, hey, I'm making an extraordinary contribution here, where you were proactively engaged in something. Like maybe you had some real great news to share with someone, like your spouse, and you couldn't wait to make that phone call and say, I got great news for you. I just found out that your book was picked up by Simon & Schuster, whatever it is. You have some kind of excitement that, like, I can't wait to share this. My invitation to you is to bring that same energy when you're making the offer from stage, right? Where if you're calling up your spouse and say, hey, that book you've been working on for 6 years got picked up by Simon & Schuster, you know that conversation is going to go really well. You have that certainty and excitement. You can't wait to have that conversation. That's how you must relate to your offer. Use hot Pleasure Island names for your package and magic session. So for the most part, what we're talking about, since a lot of the people whom I serve are newer on the speaking path and making offers from stage, we are talking about making an offer for a free strategy session. We call them magic sessions in Speaker Venture, because magic is more exciting than strategy. However you create that magic with folks, that's really what the invitation is. And then inside that magic session is when you offer your paid package. So this is just a note that you want to give hot names that are Pleasure Island, i.e. benefit-oriented, names for your package and your magic session. So now let's dive into the structure. I've broken this down into 4 stages. The first stage is that you must establish the gap between Pain Island and Pleasure Island. So by that, we're referring to, just to reiterate, Pain Island is if they don't work with you or someone of your caliber, and Pleasure Island, and of course with Pain Island, how is that going to impact them 1 year from now, 20 years from now? That's what Pain Island is. Pleasure Island is if they do work with you or someone of your caliber, how their life will be transformed. In this moment, at the end of the program, a year from there, 20 years down the road, so on. So we have to create a Grand Canyon-sized gap between Pain Island and Pleasure Island. So let's say you work with someone in the health niche. Then how you would be describing Pain Island is that if you don't get support after today, then it's probable that you're not going to have this breakthrough around your health and wellness that you're so committed to having. And consequently, you're going to stay low energy. You're not going to have the body that you want to have, perhaps. You're not going to feel as great in your body. You're not going to have that vibrancy to succeed in your business and thrive with your family, and so much more. Is just what's predictable. The other way this can go is that you do get support after tonight, and then you do have that body that you love. You feel energized to wake up in the morning, and you just have more gusto and fervor with how you create your business and make your impact in the world. That's one way it could sound like. Those of you in the health niche will probably do a much better job than I just did. So the point is, I've created a gap between Pain Island and Pleasure Island. Only then does it make sense to share my package. Again, your package is now the boat that takes your client from Pain Island to Pleasure Island. And only when you've illustrated the gap does it make sense to share your package. So I'll give another quick example of how this works. Let's say I am a pilot, the captain of a cruise ship that takes people to Hawaii. So I would not just say, I would not start off with step 2 and say, hey, you want to go to Hawaii? What I would say is, establishing the gap between Pain and Pleasure Island, I would say, you've been in your cubicle for 3 straight years. You haven't taken a vacation. Your neck is just sore from being hunched over on the computer. You get a brief respite during the weekends when you can watch the football game, and hang out with your kids a bit, but even that feels draining to you. Now, what if you were on the beaches of Hawaii and felt this incredible relaxation, and you know that everything is just handled, and you've got a Mai Tai in hand, you're there with your favorite person in the world without a worry in the world. We've established a gap. Now we can say, how would you like to take my cruise ship to Hawaii? It's a lot more effective because we created this gap between the two. So when you're sharing your package, what you're going to do is highlight mastery of your 3-step process. And this is traditionally the same points as your content. And when I work with clients, I'm designing with them their whole signature presentation that's really in their voice and going to maximize the results. So we do talk about how to design content, where a simple way to do it is to think of it as 3 chronological steps your audience must take in order to achieve the results. So if we were to use a health niche example, maybe step 1 is that you must throw out all the crappy food in your kitchen. Could be step 1. Step 2 is to go to the health food store and buy the following items, right? Then step 3 could be to have an exercise regimen that you stick to. All right, let's just say those are the 3. Again, if you're in the health niche, you could probably come up with better steps. This is just off the top of my head. Then in the package, which we'll call health mastery, then guess what are the 3 things? If those are the 3 steps I shared during the middle of the talk, then as I'm talking about the package, guess what the 3 things that we're going to do in health mastery? We are going to identify all the food that's not working for you, and we're going to make sure you remove it right away. Then we are going to identify the food that is right for you so that you can go to the grocery store, the health food store, and pick up those right foods. And then third, we're going to prescribe exercise regimen for you that is not going to be something you dread and then give up on, but something that really makes you excited and that you really stick with and gives you more energy and vitality. Okay? That's what a 3-step process will look like. The reason I'm going through this right now is that this is so key. I was not mentored this way, and most others, I don't think I've seen this before actually from anywhere else, where it has to mirror the content, has to be the same things that your package delivers. This makes it a lot simpler because just consider that your audience has gotten this education from you and been told like, okay, that makes sense. I got to throw out the crappy food. I got to get the right food, and I got to get an exercise regimen. It makes sense, right? Your points have to make sense and position you as an expert for making these points. Then when your offer comes up and says, we're going to do these same 3 things, there's an automatic yes that's built in. They're going to want to do your package because they were on board for your content. It just makes sense as an energetic match. Jackie, I feel so passionate about this point. I want to make sure that it's landing. Is there anything that you want to clarify?
No, I think this is very, very clear and certainly makes the process simple. There's not a lot of guesswork here. It's an easy solution. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah,
great. That was my intention. I'm really passionate about simplicity too, because that's what creates stickability. So I'm so glad that it is coming.
And it's easier to present from the stage as well. You know, you don't have to think, okay, so where am I now? I mean, it's really clear. I presented those things. Now, of course, this easily follows.
Right. So then you would, and then you might add, and because I want to get on one slide, certainly the benefits of this, like why it's so great. Once you've thrown out all the crappy food, you don't have to worry about that snack that is like your weakness, you know, getting to you and just taking you out. And otherwise, great plans working for you, getting sabotaged. Or the healthy food, I'm going to be prescribing for you the exact ones to get because I know it can be overwhelming when you go to the health food store for the first time. Or the exercise regimen, we'll find a way to make it fun. Whatever the concerns are for your audience, you want to be able to address them ideally and speak to the incredible benefits they're going to get. And you might share the outcome by the end of this is that you are going to, I like the idea of having a one powerful outcome oriented statement. By the end of health mastery, you are going to love your body more than you ever have. You're going to have twice as much energy throughout the day without the crutch of caffeine. or other hard substances, and you are going to be more productive than you ever have before. What we've seen is people have, you have testimonials, this would be the good time to include those. What we've seen is people have created new businesses. You know, they've been stuck in the same job for decades and finally pulled the trigger on creating their own business. Or they were able to take up a new sport again that they had given up on, that they loved so much when they were younger. Right? Giving those kinds of testimonials would be appropriate here. So this is in the model of when you are doing the one-on-one magic session, and maybe we could take some questions about selling from stage. I think I prefer to do that versus trying to cover both right here. But let's just hone in on when you're using your presentation to fill your calendar with one-on-one sessions. From here, you're going to invite them into this one-on-one session, and you'll say that, and you might call, for our purposes of this example, the health breakthrough session. And then in the health breakthrough session, you're going to do two things. You're going to provide value and invite them into health mastery. So this does two things right away. The concern that your audience is going to have is that you're just going to sell me something during this, right? And then the concern that you have making the offer from stage is that I'm going to get a bunch of tire kickers who have no interest in buying anything. So we address both those concerns for you and for the audience by emphasizing to provide value and invite them into the package, meaning that you'll state this from the stage, that during this health breakthrough session, we are going to dive deep into your biggest health challenges and create a distinct, unique, customized health plan for you, okay, that you'll be able to implement right away. There has to be that core value that you're delivering, and I just made up an example of what that could sound like if you're in the health niche. The effect of this is that people are going to feel, wow, this is so exciting. And you might add, it's one thing to get in a group, but it is so much more powerful when I can really hone in on you one-on-one. Now that we've met, to be able to go deeper in this relationship and meet with you one-on-one, right? It's actually very natural as a progression of a relationship. It's one reason I favor this, which is on stage. It feels like too big of a step to just meet someone cold and whip out your credit card, for me personally. And this is where your own congruency you have to check out for yourself. If you feel similarly, then chances are this is a good model for you. So you would say, I'm here to provide value. You're going to have XYZ breakthroughs inside of our one-on-one session. And we'll explore if health mastery is the right fit for you. If it is, then you'll have the opportunity to register and we'll begin our work together. And if not, then you'll still get a lot of value and I'll do my best to recommend a better resource for you. Okay, that's how it could sound like to invite them in the package. And what happens is that most people will be selective enough where if they are not interested in buying anything for whatever reason, they're just not open to that, they'll not want to waste your time, essentially. Most people are quite considerate, I found, when it comes to that. You could say more from the stage in terms of qualifying the audience, like this is only for you if you're open to investing your time and finances into getting this support. That's something that could be commonly said that I think is perfectly fine too. Next would be the value of the session. So you'd say the value of this session is $300. Again, that's there to make it known that you're not just throwing out freebie sessions to people, that this is a legitimately valuable session. That's why it's priced at $300. Then because you've come here today, it's my complimentary gift to you when you book it now. Okay, that moves in our final stage, which is a call to action, which is we make it a separate step because you have to make it clear how to get it. Sometimes people get all 3 steps down, and then it's like, so I guess like come up to me if you want this. No, you have to have a clear call to action. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you get them in the calendar then and there. Okay, the same way, by the way, I recommend that when you're in a magic session, you get the credit card then and there. When there's a commitment made, people can commit with either their time or money or both. So in this case, they're committing the time. In a magic session, they're committing their money. And that actually means making a commitment by the end, right? So in the magic session, don't send them a PayPal link or an invoice. No, take the credit card, run it right then and there, make sure you're all good, and then, all right, the relationship has been elevated. How that applies here is having your calendar pre-printed so that they can plug in the times that work for them right then and there. So I typically have a few clipboards at the back where they can choose the times that work for them. It's first come, first serve. So if you do want to meet and take advantage of this opportunity to have a health breakthrough session, then do be the first ones back so that you can choose the time that works for you. And as a quick follow-up note, then you or your assistant will send them an email confirmation afterwards, ideally that same day. And that'll be just reminding them about this one-on-one session coming up with you. I like to have a little welcome video too, like, thank you so much for signing up for this breakthrough session. I'm so excited to meet with you. Here's something to consider before we meet up. And that provides more of a through line to ensure that they actually show up for the magic session. And text reminders are also a good thing as well. So that's what I have for you with the structure of making an offer. I'd love to hear any questions from either you, Jackie, or anyone who's joining us live.
Well, why don't we go back to, if you would relieve the screen, and we'll we'll invite our participants to actually, if they have questions, to put them in the Q&A, and so we can see them and respond to them. So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask Jon about what he just simply presented? If you can see yourself on stage doing this, are you pretty clear, or do you have some thoughts, clarifications that you need?
I would say questions or any insights, anything that's opened up for you so far from this that you can take away. I'd love to hear from any of you on that.
Okay. There's one. Wendy is asking, she's saying, fantastic info. I missed the first half hour. Yes, there will be recordings, Wendy, so we will get that to you. Thank you for asking. We appreciate that. And I'm glad you came, and we'll make sure that you get all of this great opportunity. And she's saying thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, Wendy.
That's great.
I can't see those messages. Go off you telling me.
There's, and she's asking, Jon, do you have a book?
Oh, there it is. Q&A. Do I have a book? So no, there's no reason to hesitate with that. And not to think about that. It's funny, we guess we'll get caught up in our stories and explanations. No, I do not have a book currently. One interesting fact about me is that I have a screenwriting background. My first love in life was creative writing. So my weekend passion is doing creative writing. So I'm working on a book of short stories right now. And that'll probably be the first one to get released. Although another book on public speaking, and specifically this new paradigm of speaking, will be released. And it's one of those projects where I'm not sure if it's an A project or a B project right in this moment today with my Bold New World event coming up and the speaking engagements. It's not a priority, but it is forthcoming, and would love to share that with you, Wendy. Thanks for asking.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your event?
Yes, so Bold New World is our 2-day event that's happening, and it's the very first time I've done this model where it's open to anyone to attend who resonates with using public speaking to grow their business, yes, to really say yes to doing it in the most lucrative and successful way possible, and to do it in a way that calls forth their next level evolution as an authentic leader, as someone who opens their heart more, as someone who speaks powerfully their truth, doesn't rely on the latest techniques that they've seen others do, but really wants to cultivate their own unique voice. So day one will be entirely on the craft of speaking. We'll be addressing a lot of this. A lot of this will be rewiring mindset too. So I actually have a money expert, because I mentioned earlier how the relationship to money is so important. So my good friend Wei Hong is flying in from LA, and he'll be presenting on how to break free of money anxiety. And we'll have a full hour with him, which I'm really excited about. That's all on the craft of speaking. So the breaking down of the signature presentation further, the personal story, the content, the offer, there'll be opportunities to practice in groups and on stage. And then we'll be doing the inner work as well, as I mentioned, with way in relationship to money, mindset work, way of being, very transformational on day one. Day two will also be very transformational, although we do shift into the business of speaking, which is really about how to host your own live events, how to book speaking engagements are typically the two most lucrative ways to be monetizing your speaking. And when it comes to hosting events, I have some secrets to share in terms of how intimate events, because a lot of people have this big notion of like, oh, an event is so much work, but actually the intimate events can be some of the most lucrative and fulfilling, certainly from a profit margin standpoint. They make the most sense. I do feel that there's a trend moving towards that. So we'll be diving into that, as well as everything I know about booking speaking gigs. I know you shared in my bio, Jackie, that I've spoken on 500 plus stages. I would say of those 500 plus, 400 plus have been on other people's stages, either virtual or in person. And 100 have been ones that I've hosted. So you might say I've picked up a few things after booking 400 plus speaking engagements on how the process actually works. So that's what we'll be covering on day two of Bold New World. So if you're here, then it's my polite invitation to have you join us. It would truly light me up and warm my heart in such big ways to have you join us. It's happening August 26th, 27th. The investment is just $97 for this. And people ask, why is it so inexpensive? It's a good question to ask. You know, if it really is that valuable, why is it so cheap to attend? And I really wanted to do something that would allow me to reach a wider audience and to have price be no barrier to entry. I have a successful multiple six-figure business right now. I didn't really need to do this. And it's been built in a certain way that's very high touch with me and the coaches that are on my team. We're really, really high touch oriented. And this is also going to be high touch. It's not going to be a massive event. It might just be 50 or so people in the room. I wanted to try something new where I could just cast a wider net and just say, hey, come play with us if you resonate with me or anything I've shared so far. We'd love to spend 2 days together. So the website, should I share the website, Jackie?
Yes, but also tell us, where is it going to be?
Oh, and I mentioned that. You're right. So this will be in Denver, where I live with my wife, in Denver, Colorado. It's happening the last weekend of August, August 26th, 27th. So hopefully you can join us. If you can't, then I'd like to present a couple other options for how we can stay connected. But the best case scenario is if you could join us, and you can go to boldworldlive.com. Can you put that in the chat, Jackie?
Sure.
boldnewworldlive.com.
Let's see. There we go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So you can click on that link. If you resonated with me and what I've shared, then it would be amazing to be able to continue this conversation in person for 2 full days, and you with 97 to join us. So you can go to that link and register, and then those who register first are actually going to get a bonus call with me, a group training call that's really going to allow me to get to know you more, and, work with you on whatever aspect of your speaking-based business prior to the event. So if that calls to you, then wonderful. I'm happy to answer any questions. You can put that in the chat box as well about the event. And I will say that since the event is coming up, and I know that's August, and people might have other plans at this time of year, I do want to stay connected to you however I can. So 2 things I want to do. One is if you would like the free gift of the making offers from stage, I have a training module, video trainings with worksheets. It's fantastic, completely comprehensive, breaks these 4 stages down like bit by bit, and then you're able to write out each of these stages. And there's models and examples that show this in practice, then you can just email me directly. I'm happy to send that to you. And that email is john@speakerventure.com. Actually, did a great job of that too. John@speakerventure.com, and just note in the subject, offer training. And you can mention Jackie's name. I'm happy to get that to you.
And I want to make sure that you are all aware that John's name is Jon, not John. So if you can't see it on the chat room, it's Jon@speakerventure.com.
Okay, great. And then one other thing I'll extend is that if you do feel like you do want to go deeper into this conversation with me, and you feel that doing this work on an ongoing basis is something that you would like to explore, then I'm gifting a 45-minute speaker breakthrough session. And I posted the link just now. Are you able to see that, Jackie?
Yes, but I want to repeat that because the replay doesn't always include this. So it would be www.calendly, CALENDLY.com/speakerventure/45.
Yes, so you can click on that link. It's my online booking link. And again, this is for you if you feel like, yes, I do want to master making offers on stage. I do want to master my personal story, my whole stage presentation, or there's some aspect that you want to dial in further on, or it could be around the hosting events and booking speaking gigs. Typically, I work with people who are looking to master their speaking first, and then we build out their business around the speaking once we have that down. So if you feel like your speaking is completely nailed down, you're just looking to book gigs, this probably is not for you, actually, because my core business is around being a speaker trainer. So if that calls to you to really master your speaking in this way and be able to generate more powerful results than ever from stage, then I would love to explore working with you. So this will be, you can see me model this right now for you. We're going to dive into your business and understand how speaking can be used to amplify it bigger than ever, and how you can be making more money than you ever have in your business through the power of speaking while evolving into your greatest authentic expression. So you're going to leave by the end of this session with a very clear plan that you can apply right away. And then we'll also explore whether one of our Speaker Venture programs would be the right fit for you. And if it is, great, you have the opportunity to register with me right away, and we'll get started off and running. If it's not, then you'll still get a lot of value from our time together, and I'll do my best to offer a resource that might better serve you. The value of this session is at least $500 because it is a distinct game plan you can use for your speaking-based business you didn't have before, and you can run with it and immediately get results if you apply it. Because this is SpeakerTunity and Jackie and her community, I'm happy to gift this to you when you book it now. So as soon as you hear this recording, you can, or if you're with us live, you can just go to it right now, click on the link, and choose a time that works for you, and we'll conduct it via Zoom. And I really can't wait to connect with you and serve you at a higher level.
Thank you, John. This was incredible information and a beautiful offering example of the work that you do. So I'm hoping that everybody resonated. We have one comment here. Wendy she said, asking if the offer is a free offer.
So Bold New World Live, I'm not sure which offer you're talking to, Wendy, so I'll just give a roundup of everything.
I think she's asking you whether the magic session essentially is.
Okay, so the speaker breakthrough session with me is complimentary. So yes, that one is complimentary. The offer training, if you want that, you can email me directly and request that as well, and then that's also complimentary. And then Bold New World Live is just $97.
Boy, what a bargain. Fabulous. I can't encourage people enough to take advantage of John's generosity and the opportunity to spend more time training with him on these programs. So thank you, John. This has been a delight, and I so appreciate having you here and the gracious information that you've imparted today. So thank you, everyone, for coming and joining, and we'll look forward to having you at the next SpeakerTunity Sessions.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everyone.